Yeah, so this week we looked at the article by Laurel Thatcher Ulrich, How Betsy Ross Became Famous. Uh, Brought up two major questions at the end. How important was it to have a famous female from the American Revolution? And why hasn't the story of Betsy Ross faced challenges of its validity? I'd answer the first question because it gave hope to the others, not just the white males that were involved in the conflict, but it it was, even though it may have not been a fully truthful description of the events. It was taking truths from other accounts and putting them together and making like a folk hero, and kind of gets into the next question: why hasn't the story of Betsy Ross faced any challenges of its validity? I think a lot of people need somebody to look up to, and they would also need somebody to replace it with, and it was able to provide people with patriotism and things of that sort. So it was giving. I'm sure it was a good teaching tool to children when you're trying to teach about the American Revolution and things like that. I wanted to look at possibly another figure where something similar happened. And a reference for this, I was looking at ushistory.org, and I came across the legend of Molly Pitcher. She's also somebody where the story is exaggerated or added to, or something along those lines. It was actually, from my research, I found it's just based on two people. Mary Ludwig Hayes. She was born in New Jersey, and she lived in Pennsylvania with her husband William, and she fought at the Battle of Monmouth. Um, this was a nickname given to her by some of the soldiers there because on June 20th, 1778, her husband was fighting in that same battle and became unable to fight, and he was actually an artilleryman, and she actually took over his position when he could no longer fight. And some Joseph Plum Martin, they found his memoirs in the 1950s. He was at the battle, and he told the story about how when her husband wasn't able to fight any longer, that she took over his position, and it was rumored or said that Washington observed her actions and actually gave her a commendation, and that so her real name, I said, was Mary Ludwig Hayes, got the nickname of Molly Pitcher because originally, before she engaged in fighting, she was actually taking water to the American soldiers. But she got the other nickname of Sergeant Molly, and she wasn't just. This wasn't like there's a second character or individual that it was based upon, and this was Margaret Corbin, and she was at Fort Washington on Manhattan Island, and she actually took over the position of a cannon for her husband as well. Uh, so they took attributes from at least two, if not other, women that were involved in the fight for the American Revolution and combined her into one. I think it allows you to give somewhat of maybe like a status of like a folk hero or something like that, but also, to answer the first question, how important was it to have a famous female? Well, I think there was several, or at least multiple women that were part of the revolutionary story, or some of the folklore or the legends that were made up. And I think it was, like I said, it was just gave the ability to give a perspective of the others that weren't just the white males that were normally always talked about. And I don't think a lot of these stories were challenged because they fit the narrative for patriotism, and these were good people, good attributes. Even if they weren't fully true, it still gave people something to aspire to, and it wasn't something negative. So I think we can see by both the examples in Laura Thatcher Ulrich's article about Betsy Ross, and also in the legend that was created with Molly Pitcher, we can see these are just two examples of how uh, the women were, how these legends of women during the American Revolution were created, and kind of why they were created. All right, thank you.